I remember for how tired I was from just like driving a car or pulling the parts and boxes at work.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I think it was December that year, it binged in. I binged.
Yep.
And I didn't know anything about it. I thought, there's a serious problem here. So I kept going through the cycle of doing that. So I'd do that and I think, I need to fix it. And then the common pitfalls that you probably see.
Yep.
So yeah, that was that. Then I got into weight training. My dad was like, I think you should lift weights. So I was like, okay then.
Hi, I'm Andy, and welcome to another episode of the Ripped Body Podcast, where we dig into the struggles and breakthroughs that shape real physique transformations. Now, today I'm joined by Chris, who went from 170 pounds to an unsustainable 118 pounds by eating just 5 foods and hammering the cardio. Now, that crash diet left scars, binge-restrict cycles, fear of weight gain, and self-doubt. But over the past few years, Chris has rebuilt. He's bulked up slowly, learned sustainable habits, and is now cutting again, this time without obsession or burnout. And we talk about breaking free from that numbers trap, that's hyperfixation on the scale weight, training smarter, and frankly, learning to live life more fully while still chasing progress in the gym. Let's dive in. Chris, I appreciate you joining me today. I've read through your emails and your application, and it seems to me like you've spent a few years in this, I'm not a fan of the word, but people understand it, skinny fat territory, where you've been training but not necessarily seeing much of a change, despite reading up, trying to look after your nutrition as best you could. You've then decided that you needed to cut first, get really lean, and then move into a slow and steady bulk before then cutting back down again. Does that summarize the situation this far?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So can you just tell me, I think I understand, you've already cut, you've bulked. So you cut down to 125, you bulked to what weight? And then where are you now? And what were the timeframes for that?
I'll start from the beginning then. Originally, I'd cut down from a heavy weight of about 170, originally with no weight training, down to 118.
Right, wow.
Which is no weight training. So you can imagine what that looked like, that photo I'd sent you. And then I had this cycle of like eating problems, binge, restrict, repeat, that sort of cycle. And I've like had the fear of gaining weight. And that's when I got up to the 125. I was thinking about this yesterday, and then I need to do something different here. This isn't sustainable. So I reached out to someone, shout out to Dean. He was like, he said you should bulk. I was like, okay then.
Yep.
So I did. That's why I started from 125. That's where I got myself back to.
Yep.
And I got to 160. I thought that's a good target number, I think. And I thought, I'm just going to end it there and then cut back down and see what happens. I had 140 in my mind, but it might be more.
Okay, quite interesting. So you gained about 35 pounds then. And over what time frame was that?
That was 2.5 years, I'd say. So I did it really slow.
Yeah, the other thing to consider here, you're starting off, I'm sorry, what's your height?
5'6".
5'6", and that's also important for people to bear in mind. So 35 pounds on someone who's 5'6" is something like 50 pounds gained on someone that might be 6 foot, something like that. Just a rough heuristic there. So gaining that over 2.5 years, it's good that you took things slow and steady. It is relatively a lot of weight to gain compared with your size when starting. Well, starting the first bulk, obviously not that first leaning out phase that you went through, right? So that sounds good on the face of it, that you've gone through this good solid bulking phase. Before we get into the question of, did I do that right? And am I on the right track now that I'm cutting? Because I imagine you've got these concerns in your head as to whether you've wasted time here. Can we just dig into this, like your comment there about how you went down from 170 to 118 without any training? What is it that kicked that off? Made you?
It was just, I just looked in the mirror once. This is why with my ex-partner, I just looked in the mirror and thought, oh my God, what happened? I said, like what I need to see in the mirror. And I had a photo of my niece at her birthday party and I thought, blimey, I look flipping old. So this was when I was about 28. So that's what started this
Yeah.
sort of journey.
And then what did you do from there? What was your strategy to lean out?
Oh,
Because you dropped a third of your body weight.
so that's the embarrassing part, actually. So I just literally cut out everything else and just stuck to 5 foods, it seemed like. And because the
Okay.
scale was going down for me, I thought, oh, I'm making progress. This is before I knew anything
Okay.
about the weight training.
Yeah.
So then I ended up doing 20-minute hit every, like 1 to 5 days a week as well. On top of that, just cardio. That's what I was doing.
Okay. Yeah.
So now looking back, I'm thinking, wow, that is unreal what I went through.
Well, it's very impressive that you managed to stick to just 5 foods for how long were you dieting for?
That was across 5 months, would you believe, back then?
5 months. Wow. Okay. So you were losing 26, 20, 21 weeks. So you were losing something like 250 pounds, 2.5 pounds a week, something like that.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah. So you were very heavily restricting your calorie intake. And did you manage to do that all in one shot? Did you have any moments where you cracked and your weight just whipped back up, or did you just absolutely nail it for 5 months solid?
Oh, I just nailed it to 5 months solid, I remember. But how tired I was from just like
Mm.
driving a car or pulling the parts and boxes at work.
Yeah, yeah.
And then eventually, I think it was December that year, it just, the binge back, it binged in. I binged.
Yep.
And I didn't know anything about it. I thought, oh, there's a serious problem here. So I kept going through the
Mm.
cycle of doing that. So I'd
Yeah.
do that and I think, oh, I need to fix it. And then the common pitfalls that you probably see.
Yep.
So yeah, that was that. Then I got into weight training. My dad was like, oh, I
Yep.
think you should lift weights. So I was like, oh, okay then. Because I had done in the past, a very long time ago, briefly done it. So I started
Mm.
doing that. So I wasn't following any constructive program. I was just copying what someone else did on YouTube at first.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I had no information. That's how that started.
Yeah, that makes total sense. We've all been through and done that. I think everybody's first program was copying someone else's, right? So there's no shame or embarrassment there. In fact, Chris, I would say you've shown a level of dedication here and determination that is quite rare, because for the first month or two, we were probably riding a very high wave of motivation as you were seeing all of these changes, which they kept going, but you managed to still gut through the next half of this cutting phase despite all of this hunger and fatigue that was coming to bite you. You managed to just carry on and really gut through it. And you got exceptionally lean, like exceptionally lean. And you weren't strength training. And so you will have lost some muscle during that time in all likelihood. But there's no doubt here that you absolutely have the mental fortitude to be successful with this kind of stuff. There's no shame here, my man. None at all. We've all done silly stuff when it comes to chasing our physique goals, I promise you. I could list off loads myself. I think, yeah, just the opposite is true here. You said that you went in from there into cycles where you would then regain the weight, eat too much, and then cut down again. Like, what weight are you moving from, your word here, binging back up to, and then cutting down to again?
I'd say, if I remember correctly, it was around that 125. I'd say between
Hmm.
125 and 130. That was the sort of area I'd ended up back into that I think I'd have to fix.
Okay. And then why did you feel that you had to then get back down to the 118 pounds?
I think I got focused on the numbers too much. So I portrayed my self-worth to a number on the scale, which is what we see all the time back then. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And I appreciate the honesty there. We've all been through that. And it's something that a lot of people have in their minds as well, especially when I will have initial conversations with, say, prospective clients, and we're talking about how much muscle we can potentially gain over a certain period. And the number that I come out with is not quite the number that they had in mind, and they feel a bit disappointed, right? Or let's say we need to cut down, and I suggest that they need to cut down to a lighter weight than certainly they'd had in mind, which frankly is true for everyone. You're certainly not an outlier there. People can get scared of not being a certain weight or gaining to a certain weight. However, the reality is, as you now know, you at 140 pounds, 145 pounds now, you look very different to the Chris that was 145 pounds 3-ish years ago when you were cutting that weight off initially. And that's because you've done all of this strength training in the meantime. So, just that scale number is not representative of how you're going to look by itself, right? I assume that this has firmly now been broken in your mind.
Yeah.
Okay, good. When you mentioned about going from 118 to 125, and you mentioned about the binging, it could almost come across as some form of disordered eating, but it doesn't sound like that to me. Oh, okay, look, this isn't my speciality, but the fact that you had 5 foods that you would only eat, there are obviously certain red flags in there for certain disordered eating professionals. However, it just sounds to me like you were someone who was massively determined to make a change and really went for it. Then when you had ended your diet, the thing that always happens for all people is that when we increase calories, we gain back water, gut content, and glycogen. And that could very easily be 5 to 7 pounds for someone who had been restricting so heavily. And so it doesn't sound to me like really you did anything wrong. It sounds like really, honestly, that's your lowest possible settling weight. And obviously, unfortunately, I wasn't here. We didn't know each other at that time, so I could reassure you and tell you that, right? Okay, so you've now been, over the last 2.5 years, you've bulked up 35 odd pounds. So you bulked up to 160. You're now cutting down. You're at about 145. Tell me, what is it that is in your mind right now? How do you feel that this process has gone? What are your concerns moving forward?
I found cutting the weight off so far been pretty easy, to be honest. I thought I'd never say that, but it has. I've took it nice and slow, as you're supposed to, not like the first, that time I was just talking about. Training's been staying pretty reasonably well, actually, considering strength normally is lost, but I found it's been quite manageable.
Excellent.
But I think I'll get caught up in looking at everyone else's progress on cutting. Oh, these people look at this XYZ. I shouldn't look at that. I should just focus on what I'm doing, which I struggle to do sometimes. But I'd say I look pretty good considering.
Well, that's everything, isn't it? You are looking and feeling great for you. And I think you're right not to look at others and judge yourself, because it's very easy to do. Like even myself, right? I'm supposed to be this fitness professional that knows all and people look up to me. You made a comment at the start of the call very kindly, like, oh, it's like speaking to a celebrity, right? Now, this can make me feel, do you know that phrase, imposter syndrome? Like, why do people listen to me? Well, there are much bigger people out there. Everyone has it. I've got that as well, right? And I've been through phases of having that as well. So you're right to just look at yourself. And you mentioned on here as well that you try to limit your social media consumption because, of course, the algorithms are going to pump up the loudest or the biggest, basically the most extreme outliers in everything. So you've gone through this bulking and now cutting phase. You're feeling amazing. Your strength has been very well maintained. What is it that you have doubts about right now? Why is it that you decided to jump on this call?
I think it's just self-doubt, is it? To keep cutting down and how far am I going to have to go? I think there's a fear of going back to that first time, which is obviously completely different. There's just the fear of that and the self-doubt. Is this the right thing I'm doing? How far do I go to transition back up?
Yep. What would you be happy with? Let's say that you could diet to an equal level of leanness. Actually, let me just have a quick look. I don't think you need to diet until you're as lean as you were before. You were exceptionally lean. You could, but you don't have to get quite that lean. But let's say you did get down to that lean so that we would then know how much muscle had been gained. How much muscle would you be happy with? How much do you have in mind that you may have gained over this 2.5 years of training?
I was hoping I'd at least gain like 10 pounds at least. That's sort of a baseline. Obviously, that's not always the way, but that's what I had in mind to get started.
I think 10 pounds is what I've got in mind as well. And I think that is realistic. That means that you then need to get down to 128 pounds. When you come back to maintenance, I've got articles for how to do that on the website, rippedbody.com/nutrition, and then it will be how to come back to maintenance or move into bulk. How to Transition from Cutting to Bulking, I think is the title of the other one. You're going to notice that you'll regain, just as you did before, like 5 to 7-ish pounds, which will be from that extra water, gut content, and glycogen. So don't let that rock your confidence either. You'll notice that you'll still look pretty much equally lean, but you'll be looking more jacked as well as lean, because that glycogen is the carbs stored in your muscles and liver, but stored in your muscles all around your body, locked in with water. And so you'll be looking bigger and fuller, even though you'll be heavier, and you'll be looking equally as lean. So I think that is realistic. The doubt that you have in your mind is because you haven't done this before and you're wondering, okay, how far am I going to have to cut? Have I wasted my time here? What could I have done different? Did I train hard enough? Tell me, what are these thoughts that are in your mind? What do you think you didn't potentially do?
You read my mind. No, but what I can appreciate from going that far is to fix all the eating behaviors on the way back up and having my life back to normal. That's what I'm grateful for, like the balance to getting that back. Because people around me, I think they probably were affected more than they ever let on. So getting them relationships balanced and back to normal was definitely worth it.
Yeah, you've made an incredibly important point here. And I feel like I should have really brought that up before. It's something that we've really, in these third editions of these Muscle and Strength Pyramid books that we're just wrapping up, Eric and I, we've got a chapter talking about this. It's how the bodybuilding sport that we are doing, and whether we're competing or not, we are bodybuilding, right? We have to be careful to minimize the impact on friends and family. And in your first pursuit of your leanness, that kind of went out the window. But now you've found that during the bulk, you managed to gain steady habits back. And now during this cutting period, how have you been finding things compared with that first time?
It's like I wasn't doing it. It was just in the background. Like I'm living my life, but it's just in the background.
So what are the nutrition changes that you've been making this time then compared with before?
Just eating the same things, but less. I've got like a principles that I stick to, which I can tweak easily, but it's just sustainable for me. I think I've got that from the 3DMJ in your books. That's where I got these habits from.
Okay, perfect then. And have people commented that it's different this time?
No, nothing. No one said anything. I think they probably wouldn't say that, but deep down I think they think, oh, thank God he's super white now. That was crazy.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Also, perhaps they haven't necessarily noticed this time as well. There wasn't really something to comment on. If it's just a case of you adjusting your portions by yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Have you been doing everything possible throughout this latest bulk and cut in order to make sure that you've made the most of it? So there are 3 principles here. There is, when we're bulking, we want to train sufficiently hard enough and often enough, i.e. deliver enough training volume throughout the week so that we've got the right stimulus to grow. Second, we need to fuel that growth with a calorie surplus, a modest calorie surplus that's going to be feeding that growth steadily over a long period. For number 2, this calorie surplus steadily over a long period, you absolutely nailed that. It was a steady gain throughout those 2.5 years, was it?
Yeah. So I wouldn't make any adjustments. I'd wait 2 weeks. If this weight stalled, I'd wait 2 weeks and put it up about 100 or 200 and then wait again. That's why it was so long, because I took my time for it to catch up.
Perfect. And then the third part of this is eating a sufficient amount of protein, but this is far less important than those first 2. But it's still important to a degree. And as long as you were eating like 120, 130-ish grams of protein on average every day, then you'd be fine. So were you doing that?
Yeah, I was way over that anyway.
Yeah, I thought so. Most people will. So then it comes down to the training. Can you describe what you were doing for your training and how your training progress was over those 2.5 years?
Now I had the chance to think about this properly yesterday. When I first got into the bulk, my equipment at home was a lot limited. Throughout the bulk, I ended up adding a squat rack and I had a bench anyway. And then as it progressed, I got myself a cable, like lat pull down I could add weights to. So I'd say that was into the second year. So now I'm looking back and thinking I should have just went straight to a gym. So that's how I progressed through my weight training. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so tell me, how did your strength change? Pick out, say, 4 lifts here and tell me how your strength has changed.
So I wasn't barbell back squatting. I was just doing it with dumbbells. So I managed to get that up to 105 to the 5 in the end. And I wasn't deadlifting with a bar RDLing. I was doing it with a dumbbell as well, single arm. So I got that up to 120 before injury, an injury. And bench pressing, I was doing a lot of just dumbbell stuff at the time. Bench pressing, I got up to about 65 to 70. That's 1 to 5 reps in there.
Okay, yep.
And I was doing dumbbell pullover a lot, but then I changed to lat pull down and cable rows. I'd say they got up
once
to
you got that machine.
Yeah, 50 to 60. They made a whole lot of difference.
Good. Yeah. Do you have somewhere where you can do chin-ups?
Yeah, I can actually raise the squat rack up and put a bar on and do it that way.
I'd say only as long as it's stable enough. It depends on your rack. Some racks, they might not be stable enough and it just ain't worth the risk.
Well, I've got a bit of a confession to make. I went to an actual gym yesterday to do my leg training. And I'm going back to another one today. So I'm actually going out in my own environment to do this now.
Okay, great. So this is really, I'd say, is probably going to be the best thing for you. It's not that you can't make good progress when training at home. Like, of course you can. But there's a big benefit to getting into a gym, not only because of the variety of equipment that we have there, but just being around a bunch of other people who are also getting at it and how that can help egg us on as well. And, by looking around, we can also see whether people are doing things differently. And then we can check our own selves and be like, actually, that looks more right. I'm not quite doing it like that. Yeah, I should probably be doing it like that, right? We can learn like that. No, of course, it can go the other way as well, where people are not doing things right, and that's okay. But just having that self-awareness that we can learn from those around us as well. So I think by getting into a gym, not only will you have better equipment, you'll be able to hit your body in different ways, train your body in different ways. You'll probably find that you'll train harder. So I think it's great if you can keep that up and have the time to keep that up. The only way that you could add another alpha factor on that is to make a friend and get a training partner, and that you guys both hit the gym consistently together, because people tend to be more consistent and they tend to train harder when they have a training partner. So, but hey, look, one step at a time, it definitely bodes well here, right? What I'll say, the only thing that stands out in my mind here of what you've been doing so far is that you've only mentioned fairly lowish rep ranges. Moving forward, given that your goal is to grow, of course you want to get strong, but your main goal is to grow, I would have probably 2/3 of your training in that 6 to 12-ish rep range. And then maybe the rest of it is in slightly above. Say the triceps press downs, for example, there may be, say, 12 to 15, that kind of isolation, bicep curls, side delts, which you'll now be able to do because you'll have cable machines, even a full rack of dumbbells. Then we go down to perhaps deadlifts, if you did want to do them with a barbell, and if your back's feeling up to it, because you did mention about the injury, you could do some of that training in the less than 6 reps range. But I would, generally speaking, try to keep most of your training in that, say, 6 to 12 rep range. You're going to be able to accumulate more volume there, do more, basically, without beating your body up quite as much, as is what happens with these lower rep ranges. And the other thing is, for the higher rep ranges, although they can be, so lighter loads, although that can be effective, pushing to failure when you're using lighter loads and therefore higher rep sets, it can just become really uncomfortable. And often people won't be able to push themselves quite as close to failure because of that discomfort. Yeah, that's all I'd say there. So I'd just adjust your training and be okay with lightening the loads a little bit so that you are able to, train in slightly higher rep ranges.
Yeah, I've been doing those as well, like that as well, yeah.
Okay.
I've got that from the books as well, so I'm doing them as well.
Okay, perfect then. Perfect. So then I don't think really you have anything to worry about here. I think you're going to cut down to probably slightly under 130. The thing to watch out for then is to not let that bump up in weight afterwards catch you unawares, which it won't now, right? That slight rebound in weight, yeah? and then to repeat what you've just done. Take photos of yourself once you get equally lean. I'm assuming that you probably don't have body measurements from that time, but you may do now because you've been reading the Rip Body stuff. So you probably won't be able to compare body part size, but that will be helpful moving forwards to really prove it to yourself. Because of course, looking at photos and comparing is quite subjective. And obviously mirror and trying to remember is the worst because our mind can play tricks on us. But that and keeping, say, 4 to 6 lifts in mind and to see whether those are improving and keeping those as a focus area, I think you're all set to continue to make some great changes.
Yeah, I agree. I think the second time around, I think it's going to be an eye-opener. This is just like the first newbie go, I'd say.
Yeah, I think you've done great considering you're doing it all by yourself and you started off by pretty much the most extreme old school bro bodybuildery thing that you could do minus the training. And you managed to follow through with that. Like, I think it really does bode well. You mentioned here about your training. You said you think you need to be training harder. I know it doesn't necessarily mean puking after leg day and stuff, but I do wonder, just coming back to this comment that you made, how hard are you training right now? I'm going to leave that question as open purposefully so you can just describe it.
But I was testing that yesterday in the gym, so I'll say I'd left 1 or 2 in reserve on the compounds I was doing, and then with Bulgarian split squats, I thought I'm just going to go to failure on these because it's safe to do so here. So I know what it feels like, so I definitely can on those and stuff. I think I am and I think I'm not, but over the couple of years, I've gained more like mind-muscle connection with stuff. And when you feel like burn, you're like, oh, it's coming. Just keep going.
Yep.
I've got that from watching Jeff Alberts. He talks about it in his stuff.
Yep.
I'm like, that's what I sort of need to do. So when it comes up, I think about it and thought, no, keep going. That's just
exactly.
motive to keep going.
I agree. And it's especially difficult with the legs because it can be the most uncomfortable. And of all of the exercises, probably the Bulgarian split squat's the most uncomfortable because of that stretch position, the depth that you get there, and just single leg work, like, can really suck. Right, it's really hard. But no, you definitely got the right attitude there. I think you're in a good place. I don't think you necessarily need to change anything here. And I think the fact that you've now put yourself in a good gym environment where people are getting at it, that's huge. And you're watching the right videos and following the right people. So that's big as well. Yeah, I don't really have any further pointers to offer, Chris. I think you got this, man.
Oh, thanks. I think I just needed someone to say that. But I've got a few guardian angels online that look over me, really. Alberto Nunes, he likes my stuff. I know he's secretly watching me because I reached out to them before and thanked them for a lot of my old issues that help, not just diet and exercise, but life issues that they've helped me get around, like yourself. That's what I'm more grateful for, just the growth.
That's good to hear, man. Yeah, you know, that's what this is all about, right? I think you got an exciting couple of years ahead of you. This cut, probably looking at another 3.5 months, finish it off. And then you bulk for a year from there and then cut down again in 18 months' time. I think there's no reason why you couldn't be here with another 10 pounds of muscle gain on your frame. And now that you really know what you're doing, and 20 pounds of muscle is going to really be quite something compared with your first cut. Look, I'm excited to see that. I know that you keep in touch. You reply to the email newsletter. Please keep doing that. Let me know how you get on. And I look forward to seeing a photo of yourself, not only at the end of this cut right now, but also the coming bulk and the successive cut after that. Yeah, please do.
I'll hold you to that.
No, please. Absolutely. You don't have to hold me to that. You're the one sending me the email, man. And I never ignore emails. All right, great. Yeah, thank you, Chris.
That's all right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for listening. Appreciate Chris for coming on and sharing his story. Now, if you'd like some help with this stuff, there are 3 things really that we can potentially help you with. The first is coaching. Go to ripbody.com and click the coaching button and all the details are there. The second, we've got books. Again, ripbody.com, click the books tab. And this is really the information on the website curated and put there into a book format for you. And then we've also gone deeper with those muscle and strength pyramid books, the nutrition and the training ones that I wrote with Eric. And then third, if you're not subscribed to the email newsletter, go to ripbody.com, just enter your email address in the box. You'll get our Kickstart course. It's a 15-day course taking you through how to apply the free training programs and the free nutrition guide, a macro calculator, taking you through all of that so that you can achieve a physique transformation without the process taking over your life. All right. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you next time.